Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Mel from MelDidItHerself, and I'm a social service worker turned furniture refinisher, DIYer, small business owner, and content creator. I've learned everything I know about these industries thanks to people who shared their knowledge on the internet. So I'm paying it forward by bringing you my tips, lessons learned, and sharing my journey in this space with you. So thank you so much for being here, being curious, and being a lifelong learner like me. Let's hop into it. Welcome, 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 my friends and fellow busy bees. I hope you're all doing well and had a wonderful week. I have some pretty big news. Well, big in my world at least, and I hope that you'll join in on my excitement. I quit my 9 to 5 job to go all in on Mel Did It Herself and my related projects. That's right. I said bye to the cushy job to pursue my passion and the thing that gets me excited to get up every day. What a freaking dream to be able to say, am I right? This is all feeling really surreal, and I'm so happy about it. And hang tight because the purpose of this episode isn't to just be tooting my own horn and getting all high and mighty about a choice that I made, because since I've made this decision and I've begun telling people about it in my life, I have been really learning some big things about us just kind of as humans and our psychology, and I want to share some of my thoughts on it. But first, I want to back up and get a little bit more personal with you. First of all, because I want us to be friends, and I think it's nice to know a little bit about the person behind the voice or the account if you follow me on my Mel Did It Herself social media accounts. And I want to tell you about my beginnings and what led to the point of being in a job that ultimately ticked all of the boxes that I thought needed ticking, but yet was still leaving me feeling a bit unfulfilled and yearning for something more and something different. So, I've always kind of felt like I needed to climb to the next best thing and move my way up the ladder. I think a lot of us have felt that way. When I first graduated from my post-secondary programs, I was working as a shelter support worker in transitional housing for female youth, and I was mainly working evenings and weekends because shout out to those casual contract social work shifts. If you know, you know. And that was really working for me for a while until I decided that I'd like to have a little bit more normal of a schedule and work during the day. So then I got a job as a frontline worker at a men's homeless shelter. And that honestly was a great experience. I had so much personal and professional growth in that context and really learned a ton about boundary setting, de-escalation tactics, and other really helpful skills for going into the social work field. I also met some really great, what I'm assuming will be lifelong friends at that job. And, fun fact, I met my husband there. And for the record, he was a fellow staff member and not a client, because that's always the follow-up question. So I got a ton of value and enjoyment out of that job. But again, it was working shift work, so they were 12-hour-long shifts, and then every 2 weeks I would be working nights. So then again, I started to crave a more stable schedule that was a little bit more business-oriented in a more case management capacity. So following that, I worked at a health center as a housing case manager for Indigenous youth, and this was probably the most rewarding job that I've had to date. I loved working with youth in their teens and early 20s and being able to make a true impact on their lives and help them to achieve the goals that I knew that they were capable of. Some of you may know that I am part Mohawk, so working in the setting with Indigenous colleagues and clients was honestly very impactful for me in terms of reconnecting with and learning about my culture, and I really cherished the teachings that I was getting in that space. But then again, I started yearning and thought, what more can I climb to? And I thought, well, I do live in Ottawa. For those that don't know, it's the capital of Canada and a very government-heavy city. And I was thinking, government job sounds pretty safe and stable and definitely better paying than nonprofit work. So then, again, I made that climb, and within that setting, kept climbing to the title that made sense next on the ladder to... The ladder to what? I wasn't quite sure. And then when I obtained the role that I had set my eyes on as the goal to climb to when I entered that space, it somehow didn't feel any different. Like, aren't you supposed to feel accomplished and warm and fuzzy and all those good things? No? So then I found myself at a bit of a crossroads. And I think it's a crossroads that many of us feel, but not enough of us talk about. When you look ahead and you think, I have how many years left here before I retire? And then if you're anything like me, that starts to make you feel a little bit hot, a little bit clammy, and your throat tightens ever so slightly at the thought. And so I started to think, what would my ideal days look like? What do I enjoy doing? And how do I love to spend my time that can also bring in money? Because the reality is, living costs money, in at least where I live. And I was asking myself, what makes me feel fulfilled and accomplished and happy and helpful? What gets me, someone who values her sleep so deeply, to wake up 3 hours early before work every morning? What has me out in a minus 22 degrees Celsius garage in thin gloves, hunched over, sanding a dresser in the middle of a Canadian winter? Or has me vigorously scrubbing out an old hutch in the hot sun, dripping with sweat in the summer, all the while with a smile on my face? The answer was my furniture painting and refinishing business that I had been growing locally and online over the last 2+ years. And I want to make it clear, the thought of being able to pursue this work full time was absolutely a daydream that I hardly even dared think about even a year or so ago, because the possibility of it felt lifetimes away. But slowly, over time, I began to grow my community, my capabilities, my knowledge base, my understanding of all things business and marketing and content creation and self-development, and simultaneously, the income I was seeing coming in from this business continued to increase, even while only dedicating part-time hours to it. Now, was it income that matched or exceeded the income that I was making at my 9 to 5? Certainly not. And was there a pension guaranteed and waiting for me at the end of this entrepreneurial path? Nope, probably not. And is anything guaranteed in this life? Honestly, not really, which is something that ultimately led and helped me to make this decision to jump in feet first. Because if we look at how crazy the last 2 years have been in the world, and all the drastic changes we're seeing in the environment, in politics, in the economy, and beyond, I don't really think anyone really fucking knows what's going on and what's going to happen, you know? So why not shoot my shot and see what I've got up my sleeve for this self-employment journey? That was the mindset, at least. And while I was reflecting on what I wanted to talk about for this episode, I recalled a conversation that I had with a group of friends of mine last summer, so just under a year ago today, and we were playing a game called Big Talk that I love to whip out at cottage weekends around a bonfire or over a round of drinks, because I love getting to the nitty-gritty with friends and learning more about them instead of just sticking to the small talk things like the weather and what reality TV show they're watching lately. I want to know, like, what are your goals, or what's something you regret, or what are you working towards, and what are your dreams, and all the fun stuff that goes into being human. And anyways, one of the questions that was asked in this Big Talk game was something along the lines of, if you were to win a bunch of money but still had to work for a living, what would be your dream of what to do for work? And so I asked everybody in the group, and we got some really interesting and insightful answers. And then someone asked the question back to me, and I kind of paused because I hadn't been thinking of my answer. I like to just be the one to ask them. It doesn't normally come back to me. And I just kind of blurted out the first thing that came to my mind that I would want to continue to do, regardless of if I needed to make money doing it or not. And it was painting and refinishing furniture. I can't remember if I said I would just have a full-time business doing it, or if I said having a store selling my refinished furniture, but it was ultimately where my heart was, even at that time. And then came another year of working a 9 to 5 job, learning new things, but never anything that really got my juices flowing and excitement and passion brewing. And I don't know if you've heard about it, but we've also had this thing called a pandemic over the last couple of years, which kind of very largely impacted, like, all of us. So there was that to take into consideration too. It was 2 years that were kind of just robbed from all of us. 2 years of missing out on stuff. And since my husband and I were a couple of dinks during that time, dinks being double income, no kid. Thank you, Kathleen, for teaching me that acronym. We finally had some disposable income and the steady jobs with paid holidays to be able to go into the world and do some exploring and enjoy our late 20s before the responsibility of pets and kids and running around doing endless errands kicked in. And instead, we were told that it was unsafe to leave our houses, and that if we wanted to visit with our loved ones, it had to be over FaceTime or through a closed window for 2 years straight. At least in Canada. It was a little bit different depending where you were in the world. So all in all, that was kind of shitty, to say the least. And I won't lie, I know that some people really suffered incredibly during that time and lost loved ones, and my heart absolutely goes out to anybody that was impacted in that way. But I'm also not one for comparative suffering. And I can feel robbed of that time of my life for reasons that might seem insignificant or mundane to someone, but that still feel very missing and very real to me. And I bet there's some of you out there that are feeling similarly, because I know that some of my friends in my friend group have expressed feeling similarly when I've talked about this. And it's okay to feel that way. But when I reflected on it, I was like, do I want to just feel unhappy and dissatisfied with this? Or do I want to take it as a lesson learned and change the way I move forward as a result? Because who knows what the future brings, and if there will ever be that right moment to take on that project you've been nurturing in your brain for the last 5 years, or when everybody's schedules will finally align to be able to take that big family trip you've been hoping to go on. In order to make these dreams of ours happen and see if we're able to reach our own expectations of ourselves, we need to give it the old college try and take action to progress towards them. And for me, that meant quitting the steady job with the safe bi-weekly deposit into my bank account that covered the bills and left me with a bit of fun money and savings at the end of the month, leaving behind health benefits, life insurance, and a dental plan in search of enjoyment, fulfillment, and meaning, working for myself, building up my business and brand, and working with my hands doing something that I get satisfaction from every day. Again, what a cool freaking thing to be able to say. But what I was alluding to at the beginning of this episode was the things I have been hearing from others ever since I've been beginning to let people know of my decision, both online on my social platforms and in person to my family, friends, and colleagues. To be honest, I was ready for a ton of questions and shocked looks from people when I told them what I was deciding to do, with questions like, what if it doesn't work out? Are you sure that's what you want to do? And like quoting some statistics about how many businesses fail within their first few years or something like that. And I was ready with all the necessary answers, ready to whip them out. But something surprising happened, and it has been so eye-opening to me. The amount of love, support, and excitement that I've gotten from those around me has been more heartwarming and encouraging than I could ever begin to describe. I've gotten so many messages from people and words of encouragement that have been such fuel to my fire in the best kind of way. But another thing that I've observed is a lot of people getting almost emotional over it and telling me about the things that they have always loved to do and would have loved to be able to do as their jobs or their business. I've heard stories of people who had dreams like I had, who then got bogged down in the monotony of the everyday and then blinked and 20 years had passed. Stories of people who had a passion and they started to dip their toe into it, but then children came and the responsibilities and financial requirements that come with it. Women who were and are capable and driven and knowledgeable that ended up as single mothers and couldn't afford to take a risk and give up the consistent paycheck of their 9-to-5 job. And who can blame them? I absolutely acknowledge what a privilege it is to be able to do something like this, to have some money saved up as a backup plan in the case that I need to dip into it to supplement my income, and honestly, to have a partner who does have a good, consistent income that we know that we can rely on. And frankly, even just having a partner who is encouraging and supportive of me pursuing something like this and believing in me and what I feel I can accomplish is truly a privilege as well, and one that I know that not everybody gets to experience. So I have takeaways from this that I wanted to document as reminders to look back on as I move forward with this chapter on my journey and in business. Number one, I'm doing this and I'm going all in on it hard because there are so many women who never got the chance or never took the chance, and I don't want to end up with the regret that I'm seeing and I'm hearing from them. And for those who are sitting around daydreaming about being able to pursue something like this one day, I want it to be an inspiration and something tangible that you can look at and be like, if she can do it, I can do it too. Because that is exactly what led me here, is people who were sharing their journeys and they're leaving their 9-to-5 and everything being okay. Because sometimes it feels scary and like it won't be okay, right? So to be able to see that and know that at least one everyday person was able to do it, I think is so motivating, and it was for me. And if nothing else, just look at it like this. We are all just humans on this earth, little insignificant specks of dust in the wind, and simultaneously, we're the main character of our own lives and the main character of our own lives only. So why not take the chance? Be what you believe is the best version of yourself and pursue what you think you're capable of doing and what you know you love to do. So, when this podcast episode first launches, I will be working my second last day of work before launching into my self employment journey as of July 11th. I am so excited to be taking this next step and living out something that seemed so out of reach not all that long ago. And I hope that you are there cheering me on too and taking inspiration to follow whatever passion or goal you have set for yourself. If you want to keep up with my journey more, I will be posting more on my Instagram in posts, but also in my stories. And my TikTok account is always where you get the most raw and unfiltered content, updates, and just kind of day-to-day stuff. So feel free to join me over there. The accounts are all at MelDidItHerself. And I would so appreciate it if there's somebody in your life that you know might benefit or find inspiration from this episode, if you would share this podcast episode with them in hopes that they leave feeling inspired or ready to maybe take that next step, or they just want to follow along and see how this works out for me. And something that you may not know about me, I love little motivational messages. They always get me fired up, and I keep a running list of ones that are especially catchy or speak to me in the Notes app on my phone. So I'm going to end every podcast episode with one of these that I've noted down over the years in hopes that you leave our time here each week feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to take on whatever comes your way that week. So this week's Mel's motivational message is: the only impossible journey is the one you never begin. All right, I know this one is a little bit more corny than usual, but it is so true. The only time you are ever guaranteed to fail is when you don't even attempt the thing. If you don't try, you're not even giving yourself the option of succeeding. And just for good measure, how about a third? Because I think it's really relevant to what we were talking about before, and the always wanting to climb and get to the next best thing and, always trying to climb that ladder. I was listening to one of Brene Brown's podcasts. I can't remember if it was Dare to Lead or the other one that she has, but she was talking to somebody about, it was probably Dare to Lead because it was kind of talking about work, but somebody said, it's not whether you'll get to the top of the ladder, it's whether your ladder is up against the right building. And I just want that to sink in for a little bit and have you reflect on which building you have your ladder leaning against, because I think so often we move forward with, the next best thing on the path that we're on, and we don't often think about veering off of that path. But as I move forward, and I veered hard, let me tell you, I'm so looking forward to seeing what that path looks like. So I hope you'll stick around to find out. And if you're enjoying the podcast so far, I would love it if you would go to the podcast page on whatever platform you're listening on today and leave me a review. I always prefer a 5-star, but I'll leave that part up to you, because that's just going to help get this pushed out to more people to discover organically and join us on this furniture refinishing ride. All right, that's it for now. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you guys next week.